breaking local news and the issues that matter to you and your community. You're headed home with Brett Manier and NL Newsday on 610 AM.
Welcome back. Drones for good. One of my favorite topics out there. We keep hearing about all the possibilities and one-off examples of good use cases for drone technology these days. Well, I'm joined on the line once again by Michael Zahra. He's the CEO of Drone Delivery Canada, and they've just inked a deal with the Beausoleil First Nation to deliver COVID-19 related medical supplies by drone. Michael, welcome back to Newsday.
Thanks for having me.
Tell me what you're doing with the Beausoleil First Nation.
So Beausoleil First Nation in Northern Ontario, they have a portion of the community on the mainland and a portion of the community on an island called Christian Island. And what a lot of these communities are doing is they are attempting to isolate themselves to prevent the virus going on to the community. And they're particularly susceptible because they have poor healthcare infrastructure, as we all probably know, and they often have greater underlying healthcare issues. So they're particularly at risk. So in this case, the island wants to isolate themselves and minimize ferry traffic and minimize person-to-person contact. So they're going to be using drones to keep the supply chain open.
Interesting. Supply chain. Now, is this just COVID supplies? Because you guys are using your Sparrow drone, which is that correct? Which is your smallest one, isn't it?
That's right. It's the smallest drone. It's electric. It's got a range of 30 kilometers and a payload capability of about 4.5 kilograms and 10 pounds. So this project is specifically for COVID supplies, for PPE, to bring swabs to the island for people to test and then bring the swabs back for analysis. So it is predominantly focused on COVID-19, but hypothetically they could use it for other medical or other applications.
Hypothetically, I mean, you could be delivering groceries and everything out there too, though, with one of your bigger, with one of your larger. I mean, you've got the one system that's like the size of a standard small helicopter. So there's a lot of potential things that you could be doing, but this is what this is what they're looking for now, I guess.
Yeah, this need is particularly focused on COVID-19, but you're right. I mean, the drones can be used to move any kind of cargo, e-commerce parcels, medical supplies, postal mail, and yes, the largest drone, the Condor, has a range of 200 kilometers and can take up to a 400-pound payload.
Yeah, that one was supposed to be undergoing testing, I guess, at an Alberta sort of test range. Is that ongoing right now?
We're doing some testing on it, on the communication systems and a few things, and we'll be doing the testing of the flying very shortly. So that will be commercially available on the market, I would say, sometime September, October.
How much was required in terms of setting up the infrastructure to be able to do these hops for the Beausoleil? Was there much required in the way of infrastructure for like a landing pad or anything like that? I mean, it's small, this drone, but I do imagine that it does need some kind of a target or something to fix on to land.
So it flies and lands by GPS coordinates. Mm-hmm. So we have something called a drone spot, which is essentially a depot, and it's maybe 20 feet by 20 feet. So there'd be one at the point of origin, one at the point of destination, and we're flying between those two, delivering cargo in both directions.
Is it just like is it like a concrete pad, or is it like a fold out sort of pad?
It's like an enclosure with an open roof, and it has security cameras, it has access control, it has a weather station, so it has some electronics and some smarts to it. But essentially, it's a landing and takeoff pad.
Forgive my ignorance here. I might have missed this when you answered my very first question. But how far is the hop that it has to do, that the Sparrow is going to have to do for the Beausoleil specifically?
So this one's fairly short. It's about 4 kilometers one way over water.
Okay, so 4 kilometers over water, and then will it come back? Do they offload it then right away, and then it comes right back, or does it stick around and charge up again, or what does it do?
It's based on their needs. They can use it on demand, so if they've got something to rush, or they can use it based on a schedule. So, for instance, every hour on the hour. It's a short distance. Yeah. They can use it with great frequency as they need, moving cargo in both directions. Yeah,
I mean, I guess with a range of 30 clicks, that is indicative of the battery life, I guess, right? So it could do several trips on a single charge, at least there anyways.
Absolutely, that's correct. It's got a maximum range of about 30 kilometers. So they wouldn't need to recharge it every time, just recharge it every few cycles.
Do they have charging equipment on the other end, or is it just at the sort of mainland departure end where you do all the charging and whatnot?
So we don't just sell a drone; we sell an infrastructure solution as a managed service, meaning
right.
Includes the drones, it includes the drone spot depots that I mentioned. There's also an automated battery management system. So there's really an ecosystem, if you will, of products that work all together and with our software. So it's really a comprehensive delivery solution.
What's the value of a system like that? I mean, I was kind of surprised. We had this incident that's been being reported on in BC in the last few days where an RCMP drone collided with an RCMP helicopter during the Wet'suwet'en protests, and the drone that was destroyed in that collision was $160,000. And basically, this drone, it's not unlike many of the hobbyist drones, except it was carrying a FLIR camera. But even still, knowing something about drones and commercial drone systems, I was surprised that it was worth $160,000 for that system, according to the RCMP. What's something like the Sparrow worth with all of that sort of infrastructure with it?
Yeah, I can imagine the one that the RCMP is using is fairly specialized, so not just the cost of the drone, but specialized cameras and these sort of things. So we don't break out the prices of our drones because we don't really sell the drone. It's very different. It's not manned by a pilot, and we don't just sell a piece of hardware that somebody manually flies. Mm-hmm. It's really a system that flies unmanned automatically, and we sell it as a monthly service or like a managed service, almost like leasing a system or leasing a car.
Right. Okay. So it really depends, right? What you want to do.
Right. It depends on the drone. It depends on where it's being implemented, a number of things like that. But it's sold as a monthly managed service. Interesting.
I mean, $160,000. Does that sound? I mean, is that sort of fairly typical of commercial systems in your experience?
Well, if you look at the consumer systems, even a small consumer drone is a couple $1,000s. So they're not exactly cheap. And again, I can imagine that and I did see the news about the RCMP one. I can imagine it had some very expensive cameras on it and these sort of things. So FLIR is, maybe infrared cameras. So it's not just the cost of the drone, but any kind of equipment they might be carrying on it as well.
Sure, gotcha. Are you guys, can we expect to see other First Nations going this route? Because I know a lot of them, most First Nations in our area are doing similar things, right? Isolation, right? Outsiders not allowed in, residents only, that kind of thing, right? Really trying to limit those contacts with the outside world. They don't want people, bringing it in there where it'll, just run rampant through the community. Can we expect further announcements in the days and months ahead with other First Nations in this country?
Likely. I mean, we have had quite a few First Nations communities reach out to us because of exactly what you're talking about. We've also had healthcare, broadly defined as hospitals and medical labs and pharmacies and pharmaceutical manufacturers, as well as provincial and federal government reach out to us. So, the pandemic, of course, it's a terrible thing. We wish it didn't happen, but it certainly has raised the profile of drone delivery. So we've had a lot of inquiries. So likely you'll see some in the future as well. Yeah,
it's a very interesting time right now in that it is outlining, COVID really has pointed out problems in supply chains or just weak points, right, in supply chains and supply lines, that kind of thing. And it really does provide an opportunity for drone system manufacturers to get in there and show like this is where you can really shine.
Absolutely, you make a good point. Because a lot of companies are now looking at their disaster recovery plans and their business continuity plans, and they're realizing they don't have a backup for their current supply chain. So a drone delivery system, they now see as a perfect fit as a backup or an augmentation of their existing system. So it certainly caused companies to reflect on business continuity and disaster recovery, what's going on now with the pandemic.
At a fraction of the cost of chartering helicopters, too.
Much cheaper, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, Michael, it's always interesting. I don't know that people really know a whole lot about this space here. A lot of the CEOs and everything that I've interviewed from other drone companies tended to have come out of the hobbyist side of things and then gone into the business side, and it's kind of a space occupied by like aviation nerds such as myself. But Drone Delivery Canada, I mean, you guys mean business. Your executive background is from where were you at before Drone Delivery Canada?
So I've worked at a few companies. I was president of Staples Business Advantage, which is very much a logistics business ultimately. And then prior to that, some technology and engineering companies. So, yeah, it's very, very different than the hobbyist consumer drone business. What we're doing is very industrial, large scale, medium, heavy lift, long distance. So very, very different.
Yeah. Well, Michael, good luck to you, and good luck on those continued tests of the Condor there in Alberta. And I'm sure I'll be talking to you again at some point because you guys are doing a work that fascinates me.
Absolutely. Appreciate you for having me. Thanks very much for your kind words.
Yeah, you bet. There you have it. That is Michael Zahra. He's the CEO of Drone Delivery Canada, and one of their drone systems is functioning totally autonomously, delivering COVID supplies, PPE test kits, that kind of thing, to the Beausoleil First Nation in Northern Ontario, a remote community cut off. There's a section of it that's on a little island. It's cut off, surrounded by water. There's a 4-kilometer hop that a drone system is now making to deliver supplies there so that they don't have to risk bringing COVID into the community. Michael Zahra there. All right, NL News time is 3:59. We've got the 4 o'clock major news up next.